The fight lasted 3 minutes and 47 seconds. When it was over, Bruce Lee sat on the floor of his garage, drenched in sweat, gasping for air, more exhausted than he had ever been in his life. He had won, but he had learned something that would change everything. His opponent, a Wing Chun practitioner named Wong Jack Man, had been defeated. The challenge match was over. Bruce Lee had proven himself, but Bruce was not celebrating. He was furious, not at Wong Jack Man, not at the circumstances that led to the fight. He was furious at himself, because 3 minutes and 47 seconds was too long. Far too long. A real fight should last seconds. A real martial artist should end a confrontation in moments. Bruce had trained his entire life. He had studied under masters. He had developed techniques that no one else possessed, and it still took him nearly 4 minutes to defeat one man. That night, alone in his garage, Bruce Lee made a decision that would revolutionize martial arts. He would tear down everything he had built and start again from nothing. This is the story of the hardest sparring day in Bruce Lee's life. The fight that exposed his weaknesses. The moment of truth that destroyed one legend and created another. December 1964. Oakland, California. Bruce Lee was 24 years old. He had been teaching martial arts in America for 5 years. His school in Oakland was thriving. Students came from across the Bay Area to learn Wing Chun and the principles of Chinese martial arts. Bruce was confident, perhaps too confident. He had never lost a fight. He had never been truly tested. Every challenge he faced, every sparring session, every confrontation, he had dominated. His speed was unmatched. His technique was flawless. His understanding of combat was beyond anyone he had encountered. But confidence can become arrogance. And arrogance creates blind spots. The challenge came from the Chinese martial arts community in San Francisco. They were not happy with Bruce Lee. He was teaching Chinese martial arts to non-Chinese students. He was revealing secrets that had been guarded for generations. He was breaking the rules. Wong Jack Man was sent to deliver a message. Wong was a respected martial artist. A master of Northern Shaolin and Tai Chi, he was tall, flexible, experienced. He had trained in China under legitimate masters. His credentials were impeccable. The terms of the challenge were simple. If Bruce Lee lost, he would close his school and stop teaching non-Chinese students. If Bruce Lee won, the Chinese community would leave him alone. There was no middle ground. The fight was scheduled for December 1964 in the back room of Bruce's Oakland school. Only a handful of witnesses were present. Linda Lee, Bruce's wife, who was pregnant at the time. James Yim Lee, Bruce's friend and training partner. A few representatives from the San Francisco community. No cameras, no officials, no rules. Just two martial artists and a closed door. What happened in that room will be debated for decades. The witnesses gave conflicting accounts. The duration varied in different tellings. The techniques used were described differently by everyone present. But one thing was consistent. Bruce Lee won, and Bruce Lee was not satisfied. The fight began at approximately 7:30 p.m. Bruce and Wong faced each other in the center of the room. The space was small, maybe 20 feet by 20 feet. Wooden floors, boros, training equipment pushed to the sides. Wong assumed a classical Northern Shaolin stance. Wide, stable, arms extended in graceful curves. Bruce stood naturally. No formal stance. Weight centered. Hands up but relaxed. For a moment, neither moved. Then Wong attacked. He launched a series of rapid strikes. Straight punches, palm strikes, back fists. Northern Shaolin was known for its speed and variety. Wong's hands moved in complex patterns, attacking from multiple angles. Bruce evaded, slipped, blocked, countered. But Wong was fast, faster than Bruce expected, and his techniques were unfamiliar. Bruce had trained against karate, against boxing, against other Wing Chun practitioners. He had not trained extensively against Northern Shaolin. The patterns were different. The rhythms were unexpected. The angles were unusual. Bruce found himself on the defensive. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most important part of this story is still unfolding. The first minute of the fight was a revelation. Bruce Lee, The undefeated martial artist was struggling. Not losing, but struggling. Wong Jack Man was a legitimate threat. His training was real. His techniques were effective. Bruce threw a straight blast, his signature Wing Chun attack. Wong deflected it. Bruce followed with a low kick. Wong checked it. Bruce attempted to close the distance for trapping. Wong circled away. The witnesses watched in silence. Linda gripped James's arm. This was not what anyone expected. Bruce was used to finishing fights in seconds. He was used to overwhelming opponents with speed and precision. He was used to dominance. This was different. This was a real fight. At the 90-second mark, something shifted. Bruce stopped thinking about technique, stopped relying on patterns, stopped following the Wing Chun system he had trained for years. He started fighting. Instinct took over. He rushed Wong, driving him backwards with a flurry of punches. Not pretty punches, not textbook punches. Wild, aggressive, relentless punches. Wong retreated. His classical training had not prepared him for this kind of pressure. Northern Shaolin emphasized flowing movements, strategic distance, technical precision. Bruce was abandoning all of that. He was fighting like a street fighter. Raw, brutal, unstoppable. Wong stumbled. Bruce pressed forward. A punch landed. Then another. Wong tried to clinch to slow the assault. Bruce broke free and continued attacking. The next 2 minutes were chaos. Bruce chased Wong around the room. Wong tried to recover his composure, to return to his technical style. Bruce would not let him. Every time Wong tried to reset, Bruce was there, throwing punches, kicking, driving forward. Wong fell. Bruce followed him to the ground. More punches. Wong covered up. Bruce kept hitting. Finally, Wong signaled surrender. The fight was over. 3 minutes and 47 seconds. Bruce stood up. He was breathing hard. Sweat poured down his face. His knuckles were scraped. His shirt was torn. He had won. But as the adrenaline faded, a different feeling emerged. Shame. Bruce Lee looked at his hands, looked at Wong Jack Man on the floor, looked at the witnesses who had just watched the fight, and he felt ashamed, not of winning, but of how he had won. He had abandoned everything he taught, everything he believed. He had thrown away technique and relied on aggression. He had fought like a brawler, not a martial artist, and it had taken him nearly 4 minutes. 4 minutes to defeat one man. What if there had been 2 men? What if Wong had been armed? What if the fight had been on the street, with cars and obstacles and unknown factors? Bruce would have been in serious trouble. The witnesses congratulated him. James clapped him on the back. Linda hugged him with relief. Wong Jack Man shook his hand with respect. But Bruce barely heard any of it. His mind was already somewhere else. Already analyzing. Already planning. Later that night, Bruce sat alone in his garage. Linda had gone to bed. The house was quiet. Only the sound of his own breathing and the occasional car passing outside. He replayed the fight in his mind. Every moment, every exchange, every mistake. There were many mistakes. His stamina had faded quickly. The fight was only 4 minutes, and he was gasping by the end. His techniques had been limited. Wing Chun was designed for close range, but Wong had kept distance effectively. His flexibility had been tested. Wong's kicks came from angles Bruce could not counter. But the biggest problem was deeper. Bruce had been fighting a system. Wing Chun versus Northern Shaolin. Style versus style. Pattern versus pattern. And systems had limitations. Wong Jack Man knew Northern Shaolin. He did not know how to fight Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee knew Wing Chun. He did not know how to fight Wong Jack Man. They were both trapped by their training. Bruce had won because he abandoned his system. He had won by fighting instinctively, aggressively, without technique. He had won despite his training, not because of it. This realization hit him like a physical blow. Everything he had been teaching, everything he had been building, it was incomplete. It was limited. It was not enough. Bruce stood up, walked to his training equipment, looked at the wooden dummy he had practiced on for years. The same techniques, the same patterns, the same limitations. He made a decision. No more styles, no more systems, no more patterns. He would create something new, something that transcended traditional martial arts, something that used what worked and discarded what did not, Something that was not Wing Chun or Shaolin or karate or boxing. Something that was just fighting. Pure. Efficient. Adaptable. Real. He would call it Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist. Share and subscribe. Some stories deserve to be remembered. The next 3 years were a period of intense transformation. Bruce Lee dismantled his martial arts foundation piece by piece. He questioned everything, every stance, every technique, every principle he had learned from Ip Man and every other teacher. What works? What does not? What is tradition? What is truth? He trained differently. He studied Western boxing. He analyzed Muhammad Ali's footwork. He practiced fencing for its economy of motion. He lifted weights, something traditional martial artists avoided. He ran for endurance. He stretched for flexibility. His body changed. His mind changed. His understanding of combat changed. He developed new principles. Longest weapon to nearest target. Attack the closest part of your opponent with your closest weapon. Do not waste time with elaborate techniques. Interception. Do not block and then counter. Block and counter simultaneously. Better yet, hit them before they hit you. Economy of motion. No wasted movement. No fetiches. No techniques that exist only for beauty. Adaptability. Be water. Flow around obstacles. Take the shape of whatever container you find yourself in. These principles were radical. Traditional martial artists were offended. They accused Bruce of disrespecting their systems, of abandoning his roots, of being arrogant enough to think he could create something better than centuries of tradition. Bruce did not care. He had been in a real fight. He had experienced his own limitations. He knew something they did not. Systems fail. Principles survive. A technique that works in a dojo may not work on the street. A pattern that defeats one opponent may fail against another. But principles, true principles, work everywhere. Simplicity, directness, economy, adaptability. These would never fail. The Wong Jack Man fight became legend. Stories varied. Some said it lasted 10 seconds. Others said 10 minutes. Some said Bruce dominated easily. Others said Wong nearly won. The truth was somewhere in between, but that was not the point. The point was what happened after. Bruce Lee walked into that fight as a Wing Chun master. He walked out as something else. Something that did not have a name yet. Something that would become Jeet Kune Do. In 1967, Bruce formally named his system. He was reluctant to even call it system. He preferred to call it a concept, a philosophy, an approach. But people needed a name, so he gave them one. Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist. But he always reminded his students of the danger of names. Jeet Kune Do is not a style, he said. It is not a system. If you put it in a box and call it something, you have already killed it. Jeet Kune Do is about freedom, about using what works, about being yourself. His students struggled with this. They wanted techniques. They wanted forms. They wanted something to practice. Bruce gave them principles instead. Absorb what is useful. Reject what is useless. Add what is specifically your own. This became the core of Jeet Kune Do. Not a set of techniques, but a method of development. A way of thinking about combat. A philosophy that could evolve with each practitioner. The Wong Jack Man fight taught Bruce something else. Conditioning matters. He had been exhausted after 4 minutes. That was unacceptable. A martial artist must be able to fight for as long as necessary. Stamina is not optional. It is fundamental. Bruce became obsessed with conditioning. He ran 3 miles every day. He jumped rope. He did hundreds of sit-ups with a weight on his chest. He performed fingertip push-ups and one-arm push-ups and push-ups with his feet elevated. His body transformed. The Bruce Lee of 1964 was lean, but not extraordinary. The Bruce Lee of 1968 was a physical marvel. Every muscle defined. Every movement efficient. His body fat dropped to single digits. His speed increased. His power multiplied. People who trained with him during this period described it as superhuman. "I could not touch him," said Danilo Santo, his closest student. "We would spar and I would throw combinations and he would not be there. He was too fast, too prepared, too aware." Ino Santo had been a martial artist for decades. He held black belts in multiple systems. He was a legitimate fighter, and Bruce Lee made him feel like a beginner. That is what the Wong Jack Man fight created. Not just a philosophy, but a physical standard, a level of preparation that most martial artists never achieve. Bruce demanded perfection from himself, and he achieved something close to it. December 1964, a fight that lasted 3 minutes and 47 seconds. 3 minutes and 47 seconds that exposed every weakness Bruce Lee had. 3 minutes and 47 seconds that destroyed one legend and created another. Bruce Lee walked into that fight as a master of Wing Chun. He walked out as the founder of Jeet Kune Do. He walked out as the most influential martial artist in history. Years later, Bruce reflected on the Wong Jack Man fight in a private conversation with James Coburn, the actor and one of his students. "That fight was the most important moment of my life," Bruce said. Coburn was surprised. "Why? You won easily." Bruce shook his head. "No, I did not win easily. I struggled. I was exhausted. I abandoned my training and fought like a street thug. I won, but I was exposed." He paused, and that exposure was the greatest gift I ever received. It showed me everything that was wrong with my martial arts. It forced me to start over, to question everything, to build something real. Coburn nodded slowly. "So you are grateful for that fight?" Bruce smiled. "I'm grateful for every hard moment of my life, every failure, every struggle, every time I fell short, because those moments showed me where I needed to grow." He looked at his hands. "That fight taught me that I was not as good as I thought I was. And that truth, that painful truth, made me better than I ever could have been otherwise." December 1964. Oakland, California. A small room. 2 martial artists. 3 minutes and 47 seconds. And a legend was born. Not from victory, from struggle. Not from perfection, from failure. The hardest sparring day of Bruce Lee's life became the foundation of everything that followed. Jeet Kune Do. Enter the Dragon. The 1-inch punch. The philosophy that inspired millions. All of it started in that room. All of it started with a fight that lasted too long. All of it started when Bruce Lee learned the most important lesson of his life. The moment you think you have mastered something is the moment you stop growing. The moment you face your weaknesses is the moment you can finally overcome them. The moment you fail is the moment you can finally succeed. Bruce Lee failed that night, and that failure made him immortal.